are focused on addressing both the acute factors and the root causes of migration. First, the acute factors, the catastrophes that are causing people to leave right now. The hurricanes, the pandemic, the drought, and extreme food insecurity. The lack of climate adaptation and climate resilience.
You heard that right, folks. The Vice President, Kamala Harris, blaming climate change for illegal immigration into the United States. The world must be laughing itself silly, just like I am. But Joe Biden has enacted many policies to force the United States to rely on dirty foreign powers for our energy needs. Joining me now to discuss is the president of the Heartland Institute, James Taylor, and also with us is the director of the Center for Energy and Environment at the Competitive Enterprise Institute, Myron Ebell. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. James, we'll start with you. Is there any science that says global warming, regardless of what's causing it, is responsible for illegal immigration?
Well, there's quite a bit of science, and it says exactly the opposite, because we know the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, this is the UN itself, they compile crop data on nations throughout the world, and what they report is in Guatemala, throughout Central America, and throughout the world as a whole, that crop production keeps setting new records almost every single year. So if the theory is that climate change is forcing farmers to flee north because they can't grow any food, I don't know what planet Kamala Harris lives on.
It's true, because warmer weather has a tendency to have your crops yield more bounty, which is science. Myron, you contributed to an article entitled "More than 1/3 of registered voters are unwilling to spend $1 per month on climate change policies." Discuss that piece and other data you guys put together on the country's concerns about the theory, and I have to stress, the theory of man-made global warming.
Yes, well, we found out in a poll that we had conducted that Americans tell pollsters that they are concerned about climate change, but only 5% say that it's their top issue. And 35% say they're not willing to spend anything, any of their own money to address climate change, which suggests a certain level of skepticism. And another 15% say that they're willing to spend less than $10 a month. And it goes down rapidly after that. So people basically are willing to say that it's a problem, but when it comes down to actually putting up their own money, they don't really think it's much of a problem.
Yeah, let's get down to some brass tacks here too, James. Some of the other big news that happened this week regarding energy. The United States recovered millions of cryptocurrency that were initially paid to these hackers that hacked the Colonial Pipeline. The CEO, Joseph Blunt, apologized for this happening today on Capitol Hill. Our critical infrastructure is at serious risk, but as usual, Congress asleep at the switch, no?
Well, they are asleep at the switch, but let's also tie in something else that's very important. Just last month, Joe Biden removed sanctions on the Nord Stream 2 pipeline that is going to double Russia's natural gas delivery to Germany. This is something that in 2019, in bipartisan fashion, Republicans and Democrats alike passed a law imposing sanctions. Donald Trump eagerly signed it into law. So we have the country from which we have the cyber attack on our energy infrastructure. Joe Biden is now giving a free pass to increase their influence over European energy dominance, and at the same time, shut out American energy producers who otherwise would be shipping our energy to Europe. It is a double whammy at the expense of the American people and for the benefit of Vladimir Putin.
No kidding, no kidding. I want to expand on this, what James was just talking about, Myron, because as was alluded to, Biden has started a massive war against American energy. He killed the Keystone XL pipeline, ensuring that oil would go to China, where they're going to burn it into the atmosphere in the most irresponsible way, because the Chinese don't buy into Biden and the Democrats' religion of man-made global warming. Then Biden lifted sanctions for the Russians to complete Nord Stream 2, and as mentioned, boosting Russia's energy-dependent economy, increasing their political influence in Europe. Then Biden killed oil leases in Alaska. So Biden's moves make no sense from the environmental standpoint, but they make perfect sense when you got a guy who sits in the White House who wants to deliver for America's enemies. Am I wrong?
I think that's generally right. I mean, the fact is that for decades, the United States imported $500 to $600 billion a year of foreign oil because we didn't produce enough. As a result of the shale oil and gas revolution, which was aided by President Trump's deregulatory policies, we're now energy independent. And the Biden-Harris administration seems absolutely determined to give away that tremendous wealth creator, our energy industry, and instead start importing huge amounts of critical minerals from China primarily in order to build all the electric car batteries and solar panels and windmills that will be required by this new green fantasy energy future. So we're giving away trillions of dollars essentially for nothing.
And James, expand the economic impact on the various states. Texas, where I'm broadcasting from, Pennsylvania, Oklahoma, New Mexico, our energy producing states. As Biden destroys America's energy economy and aids our enemies' energy economy, what's that going to do to American jobs?
Well, it's destroying American jobs. During the Trump administration, Poland, for example, they constructed and expanded their import facilities for natural gas. And that was not just to provide natural gas to Poland, but then Poland was forwarding it to another dozen nations in Europe. This was American energy production, American jobs that were being created. And now Joe Biden is defying both parties. There was bipartisan support for the sanctions and saying, no, we'd rather have Russia provide Europe's natural gas, I guess under some guise of climate change. Yet under the Paris Agreement that Joe Biden wants us back into, China is building a new coal power plant every week, and that's okay. Russia is producing and delivering more natural gas to Europe, and that's okay. But we in America, Americans, well, we're going to lose jobs, and we can't use any of the energy that the rest of the world takes advantage of.
Yeah, like I said, it makes no sense on the environment. It makes perfect sense when you've got committed socialists willing to deliver for enemies of America. Steve Malloy, James Taylor, gentlemen, pleasure to meet you. Come back soon.